Hello, Astro friends. Happy new April. And April 1st brings Mercury into retrograde. I bet you've noticed it too. I just had a few episodes here today of unexpected phone calls, video calls crossing over each other. And I just started recording, and another friend called whom I had to get back to. So we have evidence Mercury is about to go retrograde this afternoon and will be retro until April 25th. All in Aries, so in Aries things can go fast and furious, and we want to be actually in a positive expression of that, more direct with our communication, like quite literally seeing each other face to face. Aries rules the face, and maybe also talk about beginnings. That's also Aries, where everything started. Maybe literally your childhood, maybe earlier expressions of you, and come back to that, and maybe also get newly inspired and stimulated to do something about it, to get going with something as you used to with a different spirit earlier on. And so Aries is the urge to live, is literally the energy of the first sign of the zodiac. And of course, it can also express as survival mode, survival instinct, and that can be more lower vibration of it, painful experience of it, being in survival mode, but then also being a fighter, being a warrior in a good way, while at the same time we hear more about the motives of war, right? So Aries is a sign with Mars, the ruler, that has to do with warfare and has to do with assertion. So yeah, watch for themes around war, themes around also when I think of Julian Assange and all this ongoing crisis and new, hopefully new turn of events in terms of journalism, right? Ruled by Mercury, and having to do with war and motives for war, right? So May Mercury retro in Aries, which happens only every 4 years, because every year Mercury goes retro in a different element, always backwards in the zodiac. So every 4 years in fire, this year in fire. So may that really bring out more truth and bring out what was important in the beginning and is still important. That is Mercury retrograde in Aries, feeding into the big event of April, the total solar eclipse in Aries on April 8th, in 1 week now. We are in the countdown, and it's an exciting one. It's a big one over North America, over Central and North America, I should say, including Mexico, if you count Mexico as Central, or you can count Mexico as North America. But it starts in Mexico, goes right across Mexico, goes into Texas, the path of totality I'm speaking about, and goes over quite a few US states, very highly populated states, and even close to Washington, even very close to Toronto, Niagara Falls, declared a state of emergency, where Mercury pre-retro in Aries, expecting so many tourists. So let's see what the cloud cover will say on April 8th. But yeah, anyway, it goes also over Toronto and Ottawa, very close by. So both capitals of Mexico City, not as close, but the US and Canadian capitals are really affected by the path of totality, and it's a renewing eclipse. So here is the chart of the eclipse, and can you see how much Aries energy there is? Starting even with Venus. Venus will go into Aries in 3 days on April 4th, and will be in Aries until April 29th. So adding to it the fierce warrior goddess, right? She's the goddess of yeah, goddess of love, but in this case, love that is very proactive, not waiting to be asked to dance, but actually getting the ball rolling, approach whom you love and what you love, and be passionate about that. That could also mean standing up for peace in this world. Libra is about, Venus rules Libra, which is about peace, but in this world of war and omnipresent warfare, destruction, violence, right? And Mercury, on the other end of the Aries spectrum, has then just gone retrograde, will go retro until mid Aries, so shows us more information about what war and these wars are all about. And often with Mercury retrograde, information leaks, and we come across details of information that otherwise would not be so readily available. And at the same time, with Mercury retro, it's about, in Aries, it's also about coming back to our inner child, and healing of the inner child is a big one, with Chiron in Aries so close to the eclipse, met by Mercury 3 times. And I would like to read the Sabian symbol for the point where Mercury retro starts. Let me just see where I can get the computer here started, which got a little bit of sleep. Get it going. Hello? It's a Mercury retro situation. I'm here facing a issue with my computer. Never mind. So, oh, here comes. Wakes up, but a bit slower. That can be also Mercury retro message. Not everything goes as fast as you might expect it to on Aries mode. And here is the Sabian symbol that reminds us of the playful, childlike quality of Aries. It says 27 degrees of Aries. So, by the way, if your birthday is mid-April, that's pretty much where 27 degrees of Aries are. So, the symbol says for 27 degrees Aries, where Mercury goes retro, through imagination, a lost opportunity is regained. And the keynote is revision of attitude and inner revaluation. All very, right? So it's all about coming back to imagination and away from the, you know, as onslaught, I should say, with Aries, the onslaught of news and of information that's kind of like an assault, right, to the mind, especially to the soul, and back to innocence and to creative imagination. This is also what the Sabian symbol talks about. Capacity of creative imagination. I call it also Imagineering. I discussed that with a friend last week. Imagineering, so engineering something into existence through imagination. Quite the magical process, right? Coming back to what do you want? What would you like to see more? All areas. How just get the ball rolling, start something, do something creative, step away from all the warfare that can come with lots of discussions and debates and controversy, very Aries, right? Stepping away from that, coming to imagination. What is the world? What is the life that you would like to see, and what would you like to contribute to the greater evolution of humanity with Pluto in Aquarius? So the eclipse can catalyze that, right? Because it has Mercury retro in it, and it also has, of course, Chiron in it. Sun, Moon, North Node, right? North Node super close to the new moon, meaning it's a seed eclipse. New seeds are being planted, and it is super close to Chiron, both the sun and the moon, will link up with Chiron on the day of the eclipse on April 8th. So it's a lot about healing, healing the wounds of war. And there has been so much war through division in various ways in the last few years, since Chiron has been in Aries since 2019. So this is an eclipse that calls for a new beginning. It's in central Aries, which has a Leo undertone. So it all has to do with love, with the heart. So bringing a heartful energy to the new, to the renewal that this eclipse brings. It is a blackout, right? It's a blackout of the old dynamics that we've had that are all about warfare. This is also the old outgoing Pisces age where there's so much suffering, so much unnecessary suffering, which then positions people, puts people into victimhood, victim mode also. And there's victims, there's perpetrators, there's saviors, there's heroes, there's martyrs. This whole dynamic implies a lot of suffering. Otherwise, the machine wouldn't run. So we need to step away from this model in our personal life and also in the world, and come back to innocence, come back to baby mode, which is also Aries. Everything is fresh, nature is fresh, little animals are being born. What do they show us? What does fresh life show us, and what does it communicate to us? How do we communicate with it and them, and come back to creative imagination and innocence? Heal the inner child. That's a lot about Chiron, super close with the eclipse. Lots of healing of the also the medicine, the medical model is quite a model of warfare. So there's so much warfare, there's so much, again, enemies, pathogens, cancer, all of these are considered. Not that there's not a suffering there, and also actual symptoms, but the medical system treats them as enemies, right? Rather than as really finding the medicine, finding really the message, finding the teaching that can help us to change, right? Rather than just kill these beasts, right? So it's a very primitive approach in a way, although very say like scientifically very advanced, but super highly specialized. And also the philosophy is one of warfare. That's what I'm saying to this. Then, so we have the eclipse here coming next Monday. And it's also an eclipse, you might have seen my posts on Facebook, that has a very wide band of totality, right? Why is that so? Because the moon is closer to the sun than it is regularly, so that the moon covers more of the sun disk, right? And the sun disk more fully. So we might see where, if you are on the eclipse path, you can see Bailey's beads potentially of the total solar eclipse. So little beads of that look like jewels on the rim of the sun, on the corona of the sun, that appear in totality. And lots of people can see the eclipse, and it is also a solar maximum. So the sun produces currently lots of coronal mass ejections and solar flares, much more than, for example, at the total solar eclipse, also known as Great American Eclipse in 2017 in August, when we had one in Leo, end of Leo. And it was also a seed eclipse, but it was not as potent because of the solar activity and also path of totality. Yet eclipses are connected, and if it's another total eclipse going over the same area, everybody who lives in this area will have another boost, in this case for renewal, another seed eclipse, and even more so since it's in Aries, right? The other one was in Leo with Sag undertone because it was end of Leo, So it was about finding our path of love and knowing ourselves, because it was close to the Sphinx point in 2017. Knowing yourself, loving ourselves, and then acting based on that, or also working based on that, working with and from what we love and from self love. And this one is a lot about self love again, with Aries and Leo undertone in central Aries, which would have just started 2 days ago on the 30th of March, started the central part of Aries, which goes until April 9th, and is Leo undertone. So it's a lot about a strong and passionate self, strong heart that wants to be activated here, right? And that can be also very creative, right? Hence also the creative imagination with that Leo undertone of mid Aries that makes things happen. And yes, Venus in Aries now too. Not quite yet, but from April 4th on until April 29th. So she's a fierce goddess, and she is typically considered in exile in Aries, so not as comfortable, not as at home as in Libra, as in fine, refined, and cultured Libra. She's more raw and she's more direct, but she also will connect with Chiron on the 21st of April, and that will be another pointer to say, hey, let's come back to our self-love and come from there, right? Express ourselves and step forward. If you don't do it, you don't know what you don't know what it's like, or you don't know what you missed, right? So get going, be courageous. Courage comes from cœur, which is the heart, and this is what gets us into action and loving, loving nudges to the world and to yourself with Venus in Aries. Then we have this week also, more even coming in the following week and the whole month of April. But I'm not getting ahead of myself in this video. I might do a separate one for April because, by the way, April is the most potent month astrologically of the year. And there's a few alignments, and even as you just look at the chart of the eclipse, everything is concentrated now between Pisces and Taurus, or will be next Monday, right? Today the moon is in Capricorn, approaching slowly as she's waning the sun, where there will be the eclipse. But you also have Mars Saturn conjunct also next week on the 11th. Is it the 11th? It's the 10th. And then you have Jupiter Uranus conjunct the other major event in April on April 20th. So there's a lot going on in the themes of Pisces, which have to do with connection, but also nowadays so much with media showers, I call them, right? And also the war that happens via the media, you could say, with Mars in Pisces, right? And Mars coming to Saturn, saying also something's got to stop here, right? Otherwise there'll be consequences. That's very apropos Saturn, right? Saturn is that guardian, right? That guards us sometimes through reality checks, sometimes through fear, right? But can be totally justified fear. It's like, yeah, we don't want to see this, right? And then we have so much Aries energy sandwiched between Pisces and Taurus. So here again, we want to express the Aries energy not through warfare, not through violence on all levels, private wars and social wars and wars between countries. But we want to actually be more the warrior of love, of peace. Life is now. show up for yourself, show up as yourself. That's very Chiron and North Node in Aries, right? And when, if not now, do something about what matters to you. And the best way, also Capricorn Sun today and tomorrow would say, best way of spending your time, spending your life, um, make it matter, and do something now. Then Taurus is, of course, also the Uranus in Taurus. It's about the awakening of our senses, while at the same time a lot has been disrupted, which is also Uranus. Nature has been disrupted so much by humanity, by all sorts of events where you can see now very inconsistent uh, patterns in nature, lots of disruptions of literally species, right, who can't survive in the conditions we have currently, right? Lots of extinction, and also economy, right? Big disruption of economy in the last few years. And was this necessary? Blah, blah, right? Then Jupiter comes to Uranus, which it does every 13, 14 years only, and it will happen on April 20th. All of that in April, as I said, right? So things are being even clearer, right? That a lot of disruption could have been about money, Taurus, could have been about economy. And it can't go on like this, right? So what needs to happen here? How can we be again in our embodied freedom, right? So also all sorts of freedom movements, be it coming out of nature, coming out of our love for nature, coming out of our need for more stability. Lots of movements, lots of revolutionary movements can come from this with Jupiter Uranus. What else is going on this week? So the week brings, of course, also the waning moon right now. We're in central Aries with Leo undertone. I shared that with you already. The moon is waning and is now in Capricorn today, Monday the 1st, tomorrow, Tuesday the 2nd, until early in the morning on Wednesday at 2:08 a.m. So Capricorn, of course, a half moon or quarter moon, it can be also called, because it's a quarter of a lunar cycle, but it looks like a half moon. So the moon is now in square with the sun, right? So there's the contrast, possibly conflict. Square has a Mars undertone between the moon in Capricorn, which is more about the elders. What do the elders say to all of this? What do the grandmothers say to all of this? And what does experience say, right, to all these flaring, up-flaring energies that can catch fire, right? That all of that is Aries. Then what matters most, right? That is more about the priorities and the sustainability question, while Aries is more the urgency, right? Urgency and importance. You even have that in kind of time management matrices and stuff, right? So dealing with that and looking at what matters most long term, what matters at the end of the day. That's very Capricorn, very grounding. Then we have the moon in Aquarius, pretty much all day Wednesday, all day Thursday the 4th, and until Friday early morning. So moon in Aquarius, sun in Aries, that's a good team. What do they both value? What do they have in common? Freedom, actually, and authenticity and autonomy are really important. And at the same time, also coming together with like minded people, not just business as usual, as Capricorn would, and then dealing with um, situations with authorities, with governments, where it feels like, oh, it's like moving mountains to bring change forth, but actually to come together in groups of like mind, like value, like spirit, like heart, and it starts with friendships. So we need friends, that's for sure, as the moon goes into Aquarius, reminds us of that at any stage of our lives, and maybe new friends. That's also Aries and Aquarius. Then the moon will go into the dark phase, right? Dark before new, when she enters Pisces on April the 5th, 4:13 a.m. Pacific. All day Saturday in Pisces, and on Sunday the 7th, the moon will enter Aries then at 4:25 a.m. So that Pisces energy Friday, Saturday is really an outflow, because it's not just a waning moon at the last sign of the zodiac, it's also the dark moon before the eclipse. So this would be a wonderful time for ceremony, for anything that needs to be released, which is so much about Pisces, is a lot about release also, right? About release, and so that renewal can come. Literally fantastic time for spring clearing and spring cleaning, but you can take that very symbolic too. So clearing also old sticky thought forms. You might write something, you might come up again with your creative imagination, with some beautiful artistic expressions of release, and ideally into flowing water or into the ocean also. If you give something, make an offering like a despacho, right? Despacho, ceremony, offer a gift to Pachamama, for her to recycle and renew that energy that you want to and are really willing and ready to release right now. Then we have the still dark moon in Aries on Sunday the 7th, from the early morning on all day Sunday until the new moon, the eclipse new moon, which will be on Monday, April 8th at 11:21 a.m., while the maximum eclipse will be 4 minutes before at 11:17 a.m. So this is, again, a window to, in this case, release Aries energy, release reactivity, release violence in our thoughts, right? Mercury, thoughts and actions. And even, why do we attract Venus in Aries? Why do we attract people whom we are in conflict with, battling with, right? Releasing those patterns. They could have to do with early childhood stuff, with Chiron here, right? So that this may be healed. And the origins of war, right? That's all very much Aries, Mercury retro, dark moon, right? Releasing all of that that keeps us in that old pattern, right? Then the new moon is such a boost for renewal. It's such a light switch moment, right? So it's the moon disk will cover the sun disk, and at its maximum time for totality on the total eclipse path will be 4.5 minutes. That's quite a window of void, a window of darkness, a window of renewal, right? Before the new moon shows up and points the way to a complete fresh beginning for us humans, coming from the heart. So wonderful time for intentions and receptivity. That's what I always say for the new moon. It's the yang, which is more the intention, and the yin, which is the reception, the receptivity for what may want to come as new impulses in your life. And especially relevant, of course, in the house, in your chart, astrological house, where Aries, especially mid-Aries, mid to late Aries, is in your chart. And so the new moon will be at 19 degrees 23 minutes of Aries. Renewal, but not panic, not all buying into all the media showers that are out now. Keep it simple, keep it pure, keep it to your heart. And that's it for my today's Astro Weather. More to come next Monday on the day of the eclipse, and possibly also for the month of April. Let's see. No promise. Let's see what Mercury has me. I wish you a beautiful week, and hope we see each other in the beingness of life, or also in the virtuality of online. All the best. Bye.